a werewolf shifter romance written by Catherine Stewart. Prologue. The elders claimed the moon goddess wove destinies in threads of silver moonlight, her most sacred, most potent magic reserved for the creation of fated mates. A perfect joining, they whispered, two souls sculpted for a singular, unbreakable union, a blessing, one that promised unparalleled strength to the wolves and their packs. Alpha Lucian of the Silverwood Pack. He once believed those whispers. Once. He had basked in the hopeful glow of such a profound connection, envisioning a future bright with shared purpose and unwavering love. That was before the scent of blood and ash choked the forest air. Before the silver light of the goddess herself seemed to mock him from an indifferent sky. The memory, a phantom limb, an ache that never, ever, truly subsided. Elara, his chosen, not fated, no, but fiercely loved, lay broken. Amidst the shattered undergrowth, her vibrant spirit extinguished, like a snuffed flame. Rivals, they'd said, a show of force. But Lucian? He saw only his failure. His, and Kyle, his beta. Even then his voice was a venomous comfort, coiling at his side. Whispered, insidious. An alpha's heart is his greatest vulnerability, Lucian. Such attachments. They invite weakness. They invite attack. The pack needs an alpha of unyielding strength, not one undone by sentiment. Now, 5 years later, the whispers of the moon goddess's blessings. Ash. They tasted like ash in Lucian's mouth. He had rebuilt his strength, fortified his pack, his heart, encased in ice of his own making. He was the alpha his pack needed, decisive, unyielding, untouchable. The fated bond, once a dream, now a terror he ruthlessly suppressed. Let others seek their other halves. He would not be a conduit for such devastation. Not again. He patrolled the moon-drenched borders of his territory, a solitary figure, carved from shadow and resolve. And if the goddess intended another gift for him, he would refuse it. He would fight it. He would tear it from his very soul if he had to. He would. For Lucian, Alpha of the Silverwood, love was no longer a sanctuary. No, it was the battlefield where he had lost everything, and he would never ever willingly step onto that field again. The cost? Simply too great, and unseen by him. Miles away, deep within the sprawling territory. A young Omega named Elara shivered. Not from the night's chill, no, but from a familiar bone-deep sense of her own insignificance, utterly unaware that the threads of her nearly invisible existence were about to become irrevocably, terribly entangled with an alpha who now feared the very essence of what she might one day represent.
The sun, it always rose. No matter how hard I tried to wish the night longer, it just kept coming. And with it, the pack's needs. My needs? They didn't get a vote, not anymore. I scanned the patrol reports, my jaw tight. Alpha's gotta look strong, you know. Can't show the cracks. Because of that, every muscle in my shoulders felt like a drawn bowstring. "Anything to report, Garrett?" I asked, my voice rougher than I wanted. Garrett, my head patrol warrior, stood stiffly. He was a good wolf, loyal, solid. "Quiet, Alpha," Garrett rumbled, his big hands clasped behind his back. Too quiet, maybe, like the forest is holding its breath. And then a couple of the lads picked up something odd near Whisper Creek. My head snapped up. Odd how? Deep down I knew the truth. Something always went wrong when things got too quiet. It was just the way of the world, wasn't it? Garrett shifted. Faint, Alpha. Real faint. A scent we couldn't place. Sweet almost, but gone like mist. And the deer, they're spooked by something over there, but no sign of Shadowclaw. It's weird. A faint, sweet scent. My wolf stirred, a low growl in my chest I had to fight down. Unplaced scents near our borders made my skin crawl. Because of that unease, I made a mental note. Whisper Creek needed a closer look. Maybe it was nothing. Maybe it was everything. What would you do, huh? Just ignore it? Not an option for an alpha. Not only that, but with the moon hunt just days away, any ripple could turn into a damn tidal wave. Double the patrols around Whisper Creek, I ordered, my voice a flat command. I want to know what that scent is, Garrett, and I want to know now. Truth be told, I didn't like mysteries. They had teeth. Garrett nodded once. Alpha. He turned to leave. Before he could move, I added, and Garrett, keep this quiet. No need to spook the whole pack over. Missed. He just nodded again and left. In the quiet that followed, I stared at the map of our territory. Whisper Creek. What was it about that name that sent a shiver down my spine today? This nagging feeling. She didn't know what scared her more. Was something Aaliyah used to say. Aaliyah, my Aaliyah. The memory hit me then, sharp and sudden, like a claw to the heart. 5 years since I'd held her, since I'd failed her. As if pulled by a string, my hand went to the old scar above my brow, a reminder etched in silver by a rival's desperate lunge that same cursed night. That's why the walls around my heart were made of stone and ice. No one was getting through them again. No one. Moments later, the door to my study creaked open and Kyle walked in. He didn't knock. He never did. Because of that habit, a familiar irritation prickled under my skin. Kyle was my beta, my father's choice, not mine, and he always seemed to know just when I was thinking about Aaliyah, or maybe he just liked to stir the pot. Lucian, Kyle said, his voice smooth as oiled stone. He was a big wolf, Kale, broad in the shoulder with eyes that saw too much, or thought they did. The moon hunt preparations are nearly complete. The pack is expectant. I leaned back in my chair, my expression deliberately unreadable. Good. That's your job, Kyle, to make sure things run. My voice was flat, cold, because letting him see any warmth, any vulnerability, was like handing him a knife. Kyle smiled then, a thin, knowing little smile that never reached his eyes. It was the kind of smile that made you want to check your back. Indeed, Alpha, and part of that expectation is for their Alpha to be whole, strong. The pack whispers, Lucian, they see you alone, they worry. An Alpha needs a Luna, especially with the shadow claws always sniffing around. A strong Luna, someone like Lyra's niece, from the Stone River Pack perhaps. An alliance there would be good. Very good for us. My wolf snarled in my head. Lyra's niece. He was still pushing that? To make things worse, he knew exactly how I felt about arranged pairings. About any pairing at all. The pack has an Alpha, Kale. That's enough. My personal life is not up for discussion. Not now. Not ever. My words were clipped. Sharp. Like bits of ice. He held up his hands, that fake smile still there. Of course, Alpha. Merely thinking of the pack's stability. After all, he let his voice drop, a hint of something dark in it. We all remember what happened when an Alpha's heart was distracted. Wouldn't want history to repeat itself, would we? Some might say a fated bond is a blessing, but a chosen bond without political strength? That can be a curse. Remember old Alpha Marcus of the Red Fang Pack? Chose a nobody from a broken lineage purely for love, they said. His pack was dust within a year because his mate brought no allies, no strength, only distraction when the Ash Mountain Wolves came calling. A sad story that, a lesson even. My fists clenched. He was talking about Aaliyah, again, twisting that knife. Deep down, I knew the truth. Kyle enjoyed this. He enjoyed poking at my old wounds. Maybe he thought it kept me sharp. Or maybe he just liked seeing me bleed a little. What do you think his game really is? Just looking out for the pack? Or something more? The Red Fang Pack fell because Marcus was a fool who neglected his borders, Kale. Not because of who he loved. And I am not Marcus. My voice was a low growl now. My wolf was close to the surface. The moon hunt will proceed as planned, and I will lead it, alone. Is that clear? Kale's eyes glittered. That little smile was still there. Perfectly, Alpha. He gave a small bow, but then, just as he reached the door, he paused. Still, fate has a funny way of ignoring our plans, doesn't it, Lucian? The moon goddess. She spins her own webs. Without another word, he was gone. The air in the room felt thick, heavy with unspoken things, and Kale's parting words. They hung there like a bad smell. That night, sleep was a hunted animal, always just out of reach. Instead, I found myself staring at the moon. Old Mother Moon. The one they said blessed us with mates. Cursed us, more like. Her light. It spilled over the training grounds, turning everything silver and black. Like my memories. Silver for Elia's laughter. Black for the day she died. I took a long drink. The fire of it burned down my throat, but it didn't touch the cold inside. No matter how hard I tried, that cold, it just stayed. It was a part of me now. A vital organ. Because of that, I knew I was safer. Colder, yeah, but safer. Truth be told, the upcoming moon hunt filled me with a kind of dread I hadn't felt in years. It wasn't the ritual itself. It was the meaning behind it, the expectation, the renewal of pack bonds, the calling for mates. My wolf, the beast inside me. It felt it too. Restless, prowling the cage of my ribs. What's worse, I couldn't shake Kale's words. Fate has a funny way of ignoring our plans. Damn him. Damn his knowing smiles. As if pulled by a string, I walked over to my desk, pulled out an old leather-bound book. The pack laws. My father's handwriting filled the pages, and his father's before him. I found the section on fated mates. A gift from the goddess, it read. A sacred bond, 2 souls as one, the pack's greatest strength. I snorted. Gift? Strength? Or a beautiful, shining trap with teeth of its own? She didn't know what scared her more. The thought of finding such a bond, or the thought of never finding one because I'd already decided to fight it. It was a twisted knot in my gut. Before I could stop myself, my thoughts drifted back to Elia. Her scent, wild herbs and sunshine. Her easy laugh. The way her eyes, bright as a summer sky, used to look at me. The moment their eyes locked. A memory, so sharp, so clear. And then the blood. So much blood. My hand still felt stained with it sometimes. I slammed the book shut. The sound echoed in the too quiet room. With every heartbeat, my resolve hardened. No. Never again. The goddess could weave her pretty webs for someone else. My path was set. Alone, strong, unbreakable. That's what my pack needed. That's what I would be. But then, a strange feeling washed over me. A restlessness that had nothing to do with my wolf. A pull. Faint. Like a distant drum. Or a scent on the wind I couldn't quite catch. What was that? My body moved on instinct. I went back to the window, searching the darkness. Nothing. Just the trees, whispering secrets to the moon. And just like that, everything changed. Or at least it felt like it was about to. This feeling, it was new. And I didn't like new. Not one bit. The drums for the moon hunt began to echo faintly from the valley then, carried on the night wind. A summons. And with them, that strange, unsettling pull seemed to get just a little bit stronger. My world tilted. Just a fraction, but enough.
The moon hunt. My stomach always did flip-flops when it came around. Because of that, I tried to stay at the very edge of everything, where the shadows were deepest. The drums were so loud tonight, like giant heartbeats shaking the ground. Boom, boom, boom. The air smelled like pine trees, a nervous wolf, and something else. Something wild and exciting that always made my own wolf peek out from inside me, just a tiny bit. I was just trying to fetch some water, keep my head down when it happened. Without warning, a fight broke out near the bonfire. Not a real fight, more like a show of strength between 2 young warriors, all growls and snapping teeth. Someone shoved someone, and then, that someone bumped hard into me. I stumbled, off balance, right into the open, straight into him, Alpha Lucian. The moment our eyes locked, everything just stopped. The drums, the shouts, the crackling fire, all gone. As if the world narrowed, there was only his face, his eyes. They were like burning gold, fierce and so sad. My heart skipped. My heart. It did this weird, fluttery thing. With his scent in the air, old forests and thunderstorms and something uniquely him, it was like I couldn't breathe. Time stood still. My body moved on instinct. Or maybe it was just panic, because I tried to back away, to melt back into the nothing I came from. But then, his hand shot out. Strong, warm, it wrapped around my arm. And as fire bloomed beneath my skin, he growled. Not a mean growl. Something else. Something possessive. Between one breath and the next, his voice ripped through the sudden silence, rough, powerful. It hit me like a physical blow. Mine. Just that one word. Mine. And just like that, everything changed. The whole pack. They went quiet. Stone quiet. As the silence roared, I could feel hundreds of eyes on me. Me. The girl no one ever saw. My world tilted. Something inside me shifted. Terror, sharp and cold, clawed up my throat. My breath caught. What had he done? What had I done? She didn't know what scared her more, his word, or the sudden awful feeling of being seen. Still, in that frozen moment, his eyes were still on me. And deep down, I knew the truth. Or a sliver of it anyway. He wasn't looking at me. Not Elara the Omega. He was looking at something else. Something his wolf saw. The space between them burned. My chest ached with a feeling I didn't have a name for. Before either could speak again, his face changed. The gold in his eyes. It flickered. Doubt. Then, horror. Oh, goddess, the horror on his face. That was worse than the claim. The tension broke when he dropped my arm like it was on fire. As the echo faded from his word, another took its place, colder this time, much colder. "This is a mistake," he shouted, his voice now harsh, cutting. He wasn't looking at me anymore. He was looking at the pack, at Beta Kale, whose face was like a thundercloud. "The bond. It's false. False. A mistake." My thoughts spun. Humiliation, hot and stinging, washed over me. Of course, what else could it be? Me, an alpha's mate? Ridiculous. No matter how hard she tried to stay invisible, fate, it seemed, had a cruel sense of humor. I wanted the ground to swallow me whole. Just disappear again. Because of that public shame, every stare felt like a physical blow. I could hear the whispers starting, like dry leaves skittering across stone. Fearful whispers, angry whispers, all aimed at me. Kyle, his face grim, stepped forward, barking orders, trying to get the pack back under control. But his eyes, when they flicked to me, were full of ice. Pure cold ice. Maybe it was fate that I'd be the pack's newest problem. Moments later, 2 guards I didn't know were roughly pulling me away from the bonfire, away from the staring eyes. As if pulled by a string, I stumbled after them. They didn't say where we were going. They didn't have to. I was the alpha's mistake. What do you do with a mistake like that, I wondered. Do you hide it? Or do you crush it? That's why my legs felt like water. Because I knew. I just knew. Nothing would ever be the same. I was moved to a small, bare room in a part of the warren I'd never seen before. It was cleaner than my old Omega den, yet it felt like a prison. That night, sleep was impossible, because every shadow seemed to hold a threat. Come morning, Beta Kale himself came to my new door. He was a big wolf Kale, and his presence filled my tiny room, sucking all the air out. Under the weight of his stare, I felt smaller than ever. "Omega," he said, and my name sounded like a curse on his lips. The Alpha was not himself last night. The moon hunt, it can stir. Primal instincts. mistakes happen. His eyes were like chips of obsidian, cold, hard. You will stay here. You will speak to no one. You will cause no more trouble. More importantly, you will understand this. You are nothing to him. A momentary lapse. An embarrassment. Do you understand me, girl? I wanted to shrink, to disappear into the wooden walls. But something inside me shifted then, a tiny spark of something. Maybe it was defiance or just pure terror. My voice trembled when I finally found it, a mere whisper. Yes, Beta Kale. Good. He gave a curt nod. Because if you try to make anything of this fancy, you will find that the pack does not tolerate weaknesses. And you, Omega, are a weakness he cannot afford. Without another word, he turned and left, the heavy thud of the door sealing me in. In the stillness that followed, his words echoed. Weakness. That's what I was. That's all I'd ever be. My bones remembered him. Not Kale, but Lucian. The feel of his hand. The rumble of his growl. The impossible word, mine. And then, the crushing denial. What's worse, I couldn't shake the memory from the night before, after they'd locked me in here. That feeling, like someone was outside my door, pacing, restless. My wolf had stirred, a faint, answering hum deep inside me. She felt it, clear as day. It had been Alpha Lucian. I just knew it. Why? Why would he stand guard over a mistake?
The morning after the hunt, it tasted like old blood and bad decisions. Because of that, the air in my study felt thick, like I could barely draw a breath. The pack was unsettled. I could feel it, like a tremor in the ground beneath my paws, even in human form. Their fear, their confusion. It was a sour scent in the air. And then there was Kale, my ever-helpful beta. He was wearing that smug, knowing look of his, like he'd won some kind of prize, which, in a way, I guess he had. He'd seen me lose control. He'd seen me make a fool of myself. Alpha, he'd said, his voice smooth as a well-worn stone. The pack, they require reassurance after last night's incident. Incident. That's what he called it. Me claiming an Omega I'd never even seen before, then practically spitting her out in front of everyone. Yeah, an incident. Truth be told, I wanted to smash something. My wolf was clawing at the inside of my skin, furious at me for the rejection, furious at the Omega for just existing. Because of that, I kept my own voice like ice. The incident is over, Kyle. It was, reflex, nothing more. The Omega is to be kept isolated. Ensure she understands her presence is an error. My gut clenched even as I said it. Error. Her eyes, when I'd looked into them, terrified. Yeah, but there was something else there too. Something that echoed deep inside me. What's worse, her scent. That faint, almost not their sweetness Garrett's patrol had mentioned near Whisper Creek. It was the same. I was sure of it now. How? What did it mean? She didn't know what scared her more, the bond I denied or the mystery she represented. I tried to focus on other reports, border patrols, food stores, the usual alpha crap. But then, my mind kept snagging on her, the Omega, Elara. I'd found out her name from the Den Mothers, Elara. It felt strange on my tongue, even in my thoughts. As if pulled by a string, I almost walked to the isolated den they'd put her in. Twice. Stopped myself both times. No, I'd made my choice. She was a mistake, a dangerous one. Because any sign of weakness, any hint of attachment, Kyle would be on it like a starving wolf on a kill. And the pack. They needed a rock, not an alpha lost in some faded fantasy. Deep down, I knew the truth, though. Part of me, the wolf part, didn't think she was a mistake at all. And that was the most dangerous thing of all. Soon after, Kale came back. that smug look still plastered on his face. "The Omega has been counseled, Alpha," he said, drawing out the word like it tasted good. "She understands her position, or lack thereof. Quiet little thing. Scared of her own shadow, it seems. Barely said a word." He almost sounded disappointed. Or was that satisfaction? With Kale, it was always hard to tell. What game was he playing now, I wondered. Did he think this Omega was some kind of threat he needed to neutralize for me, or for himself? "Good," I grunted, trying to sound like I didn't care, like it didn't bother me that he'd been near her speaking to her. Because of that effort, my voice was probably too harsh. "Let her be scared. It's for the best, for the pack." My wolf, though, it let out a low, unhappy rumble in my chest. It didn't like hearing her described as scared. It didn't like Kale talking about her at all. To make things worse, the guards I'd posted near her den reported she just sat there, still as a stone. Didn't eat much, didn't make a sound. What was that about? Was she sick, or just broken? The thought sent a weird pang through me. Protectiveness. Ridiculous. I was the one who'd broken her, wasn't I? By claiming her, by rejecting her. That's why I felt this hot spike of anger. At myself, at her, at this whole damn situation. Maybe it was fate, this mess. Or maybe it was just me being a damn fool. On the other hand, a quiet Omega was a harmless Omega, right? That's what I told myself. Still, I couldn't shake her. It was like her silence was louder than any shout. So, when I heard later that Kale, in his infinite wisdom, had assigned her some stupid, public task, sorting rare healing herbs that only the most skilled den mothers knew, a job designed to make her look like a complete idiot in front of everyone who saw her, I told myself it wasn't my concern. Let Kale play his games. Let the pack see how useless she was. It would just prove I was right to reject her. Yet, I found myself near the healer's den that afternoon. Hidden. Watching. No matter how hard I tried to stay away, something kept pulling me closer. From there I saw her. Small. Paler than I remembered. And surrounded by a circle of whispering den mothers and a few curious warriors. Kale was there too, of course, looking like a cat who'd cornered a mouse. My jaw tightened. I expected her to cry, to run, to just fall apart. Most Omegas would have. But then, she didn't. Instead, she just stood there, her head bowed, looking at the pile of tangled herbs. As the silence stretched, she reached out a trembling hand, picked up a stem, sniffed it. Her brow furrowed. Without thinking, or so it seemed, she put it in one pile, then another, and another. Slow, hesitant, but not random. Her body moved on instinct, or something like it. In that moment, something felt different. She felt it, clear as day, this weird little hum in the air around her, like the herbs themselves were talking to her. Or was that just me, losing my mind? By the time Kale started to look impatient, tapping his foot, Elara had sorted most of them. One of the head healers, old Martha, came over. She picked up a handful from Elara's good pile, sniffed them. Her eyes widened. Then she checked the bad pile. And then she looked at Elara, really looked at her, with a strange expression I couldn't read. Respect? Disbelief? Between one breath and the next, Martha nodded. She has it right, Beta Kale. Mostly. A few misplaced, but the dangerous ones are all separated. How? Kyle looked like he'd swallowed a live toad. His face went dark. The tension broke when he just grunted and stalked off. Elara, she just stood there looking down at her hands like she couldn't believe it either. Something inside me shifted. That wasn't supposed to happen. She was supposed to fail, to be nothing. With his scent in the air, my own scent, probably still clinging to her from that one brief touch, I felt a hot, possessive surge. Mine. The word echoed in my head again, a damn defiant growl. As fire bloomed beneath my skin, I turned away, furious. At her, at myself, at this whole impossible mess. Her world tilted. No, my world. It was definitely tilting. This Omega, she was not what I expected, not at all.
After that day with the herbs, the pack looked at me different. Some still whispered, their eyes like sharp little stones. But then a few looked curious, like maybe I wasn't just the alpha's big mistake. Old Martha, the head healer, even gave me a small secret smile one morning. It felt warm, like a tiny sunbeam after a long, cold winter. Because of that little smile, a funny feeling fluttered in my chest. Hope? Was that what it was? Still, I was mostly scared, especially of Beta Kale. His eyes, they followed me everywhere, cold and hard. She didn't know what scared her more, Kale's anger or the strange way Alpha Lucian would sometimes just look at me from across the training yard during mealtimes. His golden eyes would find mine just for a second, and in that moment, my breath would catch. The space between them burned, even from far away. What did he want? What was he thinking? Soon after the herb incident, Lyra found me. She's one of the older she-wolves, her face all kind wrinkles and wise eyes. She just appeared by my side when I was mending old training gear, a task Kale had made sure everyone knew was beneath even an Omega. "Child," Lyra had murmured, her voice soft like moss. "You have a gift. Don't let them crush it." Her words, they were like a puzzle. Gift? Me? I just shook my head. I'm nothing, Lyra. Just Elara. Hush now. She'd pressed a small, smooth stone into my hand. It was warm from her touch. The moon goddess sees more than we do. Sometimes the smallest light shines brightest in the deepest dark. Just listen. Listen to what the forest tells you. Listen to what the pack feels. Before I could move or ask what she meant, she was gone, vanishing as quietly as she'd come. As the silence stretched, I clutched that stone. A gift? From me? It felt impossible. Yet, Kale's whispers grew louder, more poisonous. He started saying I was unnatural, that my faint scent, the one that made me invisible for so long, was a sign of dark magic, or that I was a Shadowclaw spy. To make things worse, some pack members started to believe him. Their fear. It was a bitter taste in the air. Every shadow felt like it was watching me. Then, one afternoon, a scream tore through the air. A child's scream, high-pitched, full of terror. My body moved on instinct. I was running before I even knew why. As if pulled by a string, I followed that awful sound towards the Whisper Creek, the place everyone said was haunted by old spirits and lately by that strange, unsettling quiet Garrett's patrol had mentioned. Deep down, I knew the truth. Something terrible was happening. Other wolves were running too, warriors, mothers, and Alpha Lucian. He was a blur of dark fur and fierce power, moving faster than anyone. My heart skipped. The child, little Myra, had wandered off. Chasing a butterfly, someone said. And now she was gone. The warriors fanned out, their faces grim. Lucian, he was trying to catch her scent, but the air was all jumbled with everyone's panic. But then, as I stood there, trembling, that strange feeling from the herb den washed over me again. Stronger this time. A pull, a knowing. Without thinking, I closed my eyes. I didn't try to smell Myra. Instead, I tried to feel her fear, her smallness, and she felt it, clear as day. A picture flashed in my mind. Myra, not near the creek itself, but trapped, tangled in some old hunter's snare, hidden in a little thorny hollow uphill from the creek, a place no one would think to look because it was away from the water. My breath caught. I had to tell them. I had to. No matter how hard she tried to stay quiet, this was too important. My voice was a tiny squeak. "Alpha Lucian?" He turned. Those golden eyes, they pinned me. Fierce, impatient. Under the weight of his stare, I almost lost my nerve. But then I saw Myra's mother, her face all twisted with tears. So I took a deep breath. She's not by the water, Alpha. She's uphill, in the thorny gulch. There's an old snare there. I just know. How did I know? I had no idea. As the silence roared, everyone stared at me. Kyle, his face was pure fury. Nonsense! An Omega's fancies! We searched the creek bed. Lucian, though, he didn't move. He just kept looking at me, as if the world narrowed. It was just us again. His eyes. They searched mine. Between one breath and the next, he gave a sharp nod. Not to Kale. To me. Garrett, take 2 warriors. Check the gulch. Now! And just like that, everything changed. He'd listened. To me. Moments later, Garrett's triumphant howl echoed through the trees. They'd found her, safe, just where I'd seen her. The air thickened with relief, with shock. Myra's mother was sobbing, hugging her little girl. And then, Lucian was there, in front of me. His scent, thunderstorms and forest, it wrapped around me. He was so tall, so powerful, and his eyes, the moment their eyes locked again, they weren't angry. They weren't cold. They were burning, with something I couldn't name, confused, intense, almost raw. How? His voice was low, a growl, not a threatening one, but a growl that vibrated right through me. How did you know, Elara? When his name left his lips, my name, from his lips, my world tilted all over again. My voice trembled. I don't know, Alpha, I just felt it. Before either could speak more, Kyle was there, his face a mask of polite concern, but his eyes were like daggers aimed straight at my heart. A lucky guess, Alpha. Clearly, the Omega was probably just frightened and confused. He put a heavy hand on my shoulder, his grip like iron. Come, Omega. You've caused enough disruption for one day. As her wolf stirred with a tiny, defiant growl I quickly squashed, he pulled me away. But not before I saw Lucian's eyes narrow on Kale's hand. Just for a second. Between them, something cracked. Or maybe it was just starting to build. As the sky darkened, I didn't know what to think. He'd listened. He'd said my name. But Kyle was watching. And he looked more dangerous than ever.
After that whole mess with little Myra and Elara, just knowing where she was, sleep wasn't happening. Because of that, my study became my den again. Maps spread out, reports ignored. Myra was safe. That was good. But how Elara knew. That was a different kind of beast. A puzzle. And I hated puzzles I couldn't solve. So I did something I hadn't done in years. I went to Whisper Creek myself. Alone, before dawn. The wind shifted as I got closer, and there it was again. Faint, so damn faint but unmistakable. Sweet, like crushed wildflowers after a rain. Her scent, the Omega's, Elara's. It clung to the damp earth here, almost like she belonged to this place. But why here? What was she doing out this far? It didn't make sense. Deep down I knew the truth. This wasn't just some random Omega. This was something else entirely. Meanwhile, back in the Warren, things were tense. The pack saw what Elara did. Some looked at her with a new kind of respect, a hesitant curiosity. Old Martha, the healer, she even started asking Elara for help with sorting herbs, real quiet-like. But then, others, Kale's loudest supporters mostly, they looked at her with more fear than ever. Whispers followed her like shadows. Unnatural. Cursed. Shadow claw magic. Kyle, he let those whispers grow, watered them like poisonous plants. Because of that, I found myself watching her more. Not like before, from a distance expecting her to break. Instead, I watched her move, watched her quiet strength as she faced down their fear with nothing but dignity. It was infuriating, and it was impressive. Maybe it was fate, this pull I felt, this reluctant admiration. On the other hand, maybe I was just losing my damn mind. What's worse, my wolf, it liked watching her too. It was calmer when she was not in danger. Which was ridiculous, she was the danger. One evening, Kale cornered me. The nerve of him. He didn't even pretend to be respectful anymore. "She's making you soft, Lucian," he'd snarled, his voice low and dangerous. We were in the council chambers, thankfully empty except for us. The moonlight had cut across his face, making him look like the predator he was. That Omega. She's a distraction, a weakness, just like before. Have you forgotten Elia so quickly? Have you forgotten the cost of sentiment? Before I could move, rage, hot and blinding, flooded me. Elia. He dared use her name against me again. As fire bloomed beneath my skin, I slammed my fist on the great oak table. The wood groaned. "You will not speak her name, Kale. Not now. Not ever. And Elara, the Omega. She saved Myra. Myra lives because of her. Did your precious Stone River candidate offer such a gift to this pack?" Truth be told, the words were out before I could stop them. Defending her. Her. Kale's eyes narrowed to slits, pure fury in them. "A lucky guess, a trick. She's playing you, Lucian, and you're letting her. Because you're too blind to see the danger right in front of your face. This pack needs strong leadership. An alpha with a clear head, not one muddled by some Omega's strange ways. I will not stand by and watch you lead us to ruin over a nobody." The air thickened. My wolf was screaming, clawing to get out, to tear Kale's throat out for that. Nobody? He called her a nobody? With every heartbeat, I fought for control. "Get out, Kale," I managed, my voice a rasp. "Before I forget you're my beta." He held my gaze for a long, hard moment. Then, he gave a stiff nod. "You'll regret this, Lucian. You'll see. I'll make sure of it." Without another word, he was gone. In the quiet that followed, I sank into my chair, my whole body shaking. He was right about one thing. I was distracted, but not by weakness, by something else, something I had to understand. That's why I knew I had to talk to her, to Elara. Properly this time. No matter the risk. That night I found her in that small sad den they'd given her. She was sitting by the tiny window staring out at the moon, a silver ghost in the dim light. Her name hung in the air between us before I even spoke it. "Elara." She jumped, her eyes wide, her scent, fear and that damn wildflower sweetness, hitting me hard. Her world tilted. I saw it in the way she swayed. "Alpha." Her voice, a whisper. "I need to know," I said, stepping into the small room. It felt too small, too close. The space between them burned. "About Myra." "How did you know where she was?" She looked down at her hands, twisting them in her lap. No matter how hard she tried to hide it, I could see her trembling. I don't know, Alpha. Truly, I felt her. Her fear, like a picture in my head. A picture in her head? An empath? Or something more? Our pack had legends. Old stories about Omegas with rare gifts. Gifts tied to the moon, to the spirit of the pack. Gifts that had been forgotten, or feared. As the truth unraveled, or a piece of it anyway, I took another step closer. "Your scent, at Whisper Creek. Why were you there before?" Her eyes shot up to mine, confusion warring with that ever-present fear. I wasn't, Alpha. I've never been that far into the forest alone. I'm not allowed. Not allowed? But her scent, it was there. Faint, yes, but undeniably hers. Unless it wasn't just hers. What if that scent, that pull I felt, what if it was the bond itself I was sensing, leading me, testing me? My thoughts spun. As though fate whispered, I reached out, my fingers just brushing hers. And just like that, everything changed. A jolt, Like lightning, it shot up my arm, straight to my heart, to my wolf. My wolf roared, a possessive, triumphant sound in my head. Mate, her breath caught. Her eyes, wide and luminous in the moonlight, stared up at me. Time stood still. My bones remembered him. My bones remembered her. This connection, it was real. Terrifyingly, undeniably real. As the mark tingled on my shoulder, the one I'd sworn would never ache for another, I leaned closer. Her scent, it was driving me insane. I could see the pulse beating fast in her throat. I wanted to taste it, to claim her. Properly this time. To hell with Kale. To hell with the past. As my soul answered hers, I was about to. An alarm! A frantic howl from the western perimeter. Shadow claws. The tension broke. Elara gasped. My head snapped up. Duty. The pack. Before either could speak another word, the moment was shattered. Gone. As if summoned by Kale's earlier threats, the enemy was at our door. Or was this Kale's doing too? My mind raced. Shadow claws, or a setup. One look at Elara's terrified face and I knew one thing for sure. I had to protect her, no matter what came next. This was far from over.
The alarm shrieked through the night, a raw, terrified howl that ripped through the fragile hope I'd felt in Lucian's den. Between one breath and the next, the air was thick with the metallic tang of fear and the coppery scent of spilled blood. Shadow claws, they were inside the perimeter. My body moved on instinct. Not to fight, Omegas didn't fight, but a desperate urge to help pulsed through me. To not just be a quivering lump of fear. As if pulled by a string, I saw a gap in the defenses near the old storehouse, a place I knew from my forgotten wanderings. Warriors were rushing past, their faces grim, their growls tearing the air. Lucian, he was a whirlwind of dark fury, a true alpha defending his own, his movements a deadly dance. My heart skipped a beat just watching him, so powerful, so alive. But then I saw them, shadow claws, sleek and dark, slinking towards the storehouse, away from the main fight, towards where the pups were sometimes sheltered during attacks. Without thinking, I screamed, "The storehouse! They're going for the storehouse!" My voice was thin, probably lost in the din. So I tried to get closer to the fighting, to warn someone, anyone. Maybe it was fate that Kale was there, his eyes, like chips of ice, finding me in the chaos. Before I could move or explain, he grabbed my arm, his fingers digging in like talons. "What are you doing, Omega?" he snarled, his face a mask of fury. "Leading them to our weak points? Or just enjoying the show your dark magic summoned?" "No!" I cried. "The pups!" To make things worse just then, a Shadowclaw warrior, breaking from the main fight, lunged towards a young pack mother struggling with 2 crying children. My instincts surged. I pushed her. Hard. Out of the way. The Shadowclaw's claws raked the air where she'd been. But then, I was the one in its path. As the silence stretched for a horrifying second, I saw its yellow eyes, its bared fangs. A blur of motion. Lucian. He was there, a black cyclone of rage, tearing the Shadowclaw away from me. The air thickened with the sounds of the fight, brutal and swift. When her name left his lips, or maybe it was just a guttural roar, it was lost in the snarls and yelps. The Shadowclaws, outnumbered and outmatched by Lucian's fury, finally broke and fled, leaving behind a scatter of their dead and our own wounded. In the quiet that followed, the air was heavy with pain, with grief, with the scent of blood. So much blood. My chest ached. And then, Kale's voice cut through the daze, loud and accusing for everyone to hear. "She was with them, Alpha. I saw her, right where they broke through. This, Omega, she is a curse. She brings this darkness upon us." All eyes turned to me, accusing, terrified. As the truth unraveled, Kale's truth anyway, my small attempt to help had been twisted into something monstrous. My thoughts spun. How could they think that? No matter how hard she tried to speak, to defend myself, the words wouldn't come. My world tilted. Lucian. He was looking at me. His face was unreadable, carved from stone, his golden eyes holding an agony I couldn't understand. Was it for me? Or for the pack I'd supposedly endangered? What followed was a blur of accusing shouts, of fearful cries. Kyle, he was relentless, his words painting me as a harbinger of doom, a magnet for their enemies. Deep down, I knew the truth. He wanted me gone. And he was using this, all of it, to make it happen. Lyra, bless her brave heart, she tried to speak. Alpha, the old laws speak of Omegas with sight. But then Kale's supporters, their faces ugly with fear and anger, they shouted her down. Silence, old fool! She consorts with darkness. Lyra shrank back, her eyes full of pain. For me. And just like that, everything changed. My last little spark of hope, it died. Because of that, when Lucian finally spoke, his voice was heavy, like the weight of the whole world was on his shoulders. The Omega, Elara, he said, and her name hung in the air, cold and distant. He wouldn't even look at me. She will be taken to the moon rock dens, for her own safety and for the peace of this pack, until the elders can be consulted. Moon rock dens. The words hit me like stones. Every pup knew about the moon rock dens. They were at the very edge of the territory, cold and damp and forgotten, a place for outcasts, for the cursed. Her breath caught. As if fate demanded it, he had chosen. He had chosen his pack. He had chosen to believe Kale, or at least he had chosen to sacrifice me to calm their fears. The space between them burned with everything unsaid, with the fragile thing that had almost sparked between us. Now, it was just ash. As the silence roared in my ears, two warriors I didn't know, their faces hard and unforgiving, took my arms. They weren't gentle this time. No matter how hard I tried to be brave, to walk with dignity, my legs felt like they didn't belong to me. With every step he took, or rather, with every step they forced me to take, away from the main warren, away from Lucian, away from everything, the cold seeped deeper into my bones. I saw them, the pack members, their faces in the flickering torchlight. Fear, hatred, and some just looked away. Even the children, the ones who used to peek at me with wide, curious eyes, they hid behind their mother's legs. She felt it, clear as day. I was truly, utterly alone. A pariah. A curse. Her soul answered that unspoken verdict with a shiver of pure desolation. Eventually, they brought me to the dens. Just a shallow cave, really, at the base of a windswept tor. Cold. Damp. The wind, it howled around the rocks like a mournful spirit. Or maybe it was laughing at me. They shoved me inside. Without another word, they left, the heavy scrape of a stone being rolled partway across the entrance, the only goodbye. In the stillness that followed, the silence was absolute. Crushing. I sank to the dusty floor, the rough stone biting into my skin. This was it, then. My end. My bones remembered him, Lucian, the jolt of his touch, the impossible, thrilling terror of his eyes when he'd almost... But that was a dream. This was real. Kale was right. I was a weakness, a curse. Deep down, I knew the truth. I brought nothing but pain. To him. To everyone. As though fate whispered its final cruel joke, I remembered Lyra's stone, still clutched in my hand. The smallest light shines brightest in the deepest dark. What a lie. There was no light here. Only me. And the dark. My thoughts spun around and around, a vortex of despair. As the mark tingled, or maybe that was just the cold, I curled up on the floor. A small, forgotten thing. A single tear, hot and then instantly cold, traced a path down my cheek. And for the first time, I didn't try to be invisible. I just let myself fade.
After that moment in her den, the alarm, the shadow claws, and it was all a blur of instinct. Fight. Protect. Keep Elara behind me. Because of that, my wolf was riding me hard, all teeth and snarls, but a cold part of my mind was racing. The timing of that attack, it was too perfect. Too convenient for Kale, who'd just been threatening me, threatening her. Deep down, I knew the truth. Something was rotten, and it wasn't just the shadow claws. What followed was a brutal, bloody skirmish at the western perimeter. We drove them back, but not without losses. Good wolves. My wolves. And through it all, Kyle was there, his voice loud, directing warriors. But his eyes kept flicking to me, to Elara, who I'd shoved into the temporary safety of a shallow ravine with two of my most trusted guards. As if the forest watched, Kyle used the chaos, every injury, every moment of fear, to fan the flames against her. "See, Alpha," he'd bellowed for all to hear once the last shadow claw fled. "She is a magnet for this, a beacon of misfortune. While you dally with this, Omega, the pack bleeds." His words were poison, and the pack, scared and grieving, they were drinking it in. And Goddess, forgive me. I let my own fear, my own damn ghosts, cloud my judgment. I sent her to those cursed moonrock dens. I saw the hope die in her eyes. Her chest ached. No, my chest ached, watching her being led away. That look, it's haunted me ever since. But then, sleep became a battlefield of its own. Her face, her terror, Kyle's triumphant sneer, they wouldn't leave me. No matter how hard I tried to justify my actions, for the pack, for their safety, it felt like a lie, a coward's lie. So, 2 days later, unable to bear it, I went to the moon rock dens myself. Secretly. The place was desolate, cold, and empty. Elara was gone. Panic, cold and sharp, clawed at me. Before I could move, my gaze fell on something small on the dusty floor. A smooth, warm stone. Lyra's. Just like that, a new terrible suspicion took root. I found Lyra in the healer's den, her face etched with a grief that mirrored my own. "The stone, Lyra," I'd said, my voice rough. "What does it mean?" As the truth unraveled, Lyra told me everything. About the stone, an old Omega charm, meant to soothe a troubled spirit. About Kale's visit to her after I'd sent Elara away. How he'd sneered, boasted almost that the Omega problem would soon be resolved permanently. How he'd spoken of an old, brutal ritual of severance, one that could kill a weaker wolf or drive them mad. A ritual performed at the ancient Blood Moon altar, deep in Shadowclaw territory, usually on the night of the thinnest moon, which was tonight. And then she showed me proof. A tattered piece of hide, a message between Kyle and a Shadowclaw captain, detailing a trade. Elara, the cursed Omega, in exchange for a temporary truce and a share of our western hunting grounds. Kyle wasn't just trying to get rid of Elara, he was selling out his own pack. My world tilted. The rage. It was a living thing inside me, a firestorm. Kyle. That manipulative, traitorous bastard. He'd used my pain, my fear of repeating the past with Elia, to orchestrate this. He'd planned it all. The Shadowclaw attacks, the rumors, Elara's public shaming, all of it. Because he wanted an Omega, a Luna of his own choosing, one who would make him stronger, not me. And Elara, with her strange gifts, her undeniable bond to me, she was a threat to his ambition. What followed was a blur of cold fury and a desperate burning need to save her. "Garrett!" I'd roared, storming into the barracks. My most loyal warrior, his eyes widened at the look on my face. "Gather the 5 you trust most. Not a word to anyone else. We ride. Now." "Alpha? What is it?" Garrett asked, already moving. "Kale!" I spat his name like a curse. "He's a traitor. He has Elara. He's taking her to the Shadowclaws, to the Blood Moon altar." As the words left my lips, I saw the shock, Then the hardening resolve in Garrett's eyes and in the eyes of the warriors he chose. They were good wolves, loyal to me, loyal to the pack's true heart. More importantly, they'd seen Elara's quiet strength, her courage. They hadn't believed Kale's lies, not really. As fire bloomed beneath my skin, a different kind this time, not just rage, but a fierce protective love for that Omega I'd so cruelly misjudged. I knew this was it. My final internal hurdle wasn't just accepting the bond. It was forgiving myself for denying it, for hurting her. Because of that, I vowed then, if I got her back, I would spend the rest of my life making it up to her, if she'd even have me. That's why my wolf howled in agreement, a promise of vengeance and a plea for her safety. We had to get to her. Before Kale. Before it was too late. From there, we moved like shadows through the dying light, pushing our wolves to their limits. The path to the Blood Moon altar was treacherous, winding deep into territory we hadn't dared enter for generations. With every step he took, or rather, with every bound my wolf took, the scent of Elara, fear, and that wildflower sweetness now laced with a despair that tore at my soul, grew stronger. As the bond pulsed, a raw, aching connection, I could almost feel her terror. She felt it, clear as day, this agony, this hopelessness. And it was all my fault. To make things worse, we found signs of Kale's passage, broken twigs, the faint, acrid scent of his wolf, and at least 2 others with him. And shadow claws, too many. He wasn't just delivering her, he was meeting an escort. This was an alliance, not just a trade. What was his endgame? Was he planning to take over Silverwood with Shadowclaw backing? The thought made my blood run cold. The sky darkened into a bruised purple. The sliver of the new moon, the thinnest moon, offering little light. While my pulse raced, I focused on her scent, on that fragile thread of the bond. Just hold on, Elara. Please, just hold on. As though fate whispered, a chilling howl echoed from the direction of the altar. Not a shadow claw, not Kale. It was a sound of pure, unadulterated pain. Elara's. My wolf answered with a roar of its own, a promise of bloody retribution. We were close, too damn close to whatever horror Kale was inflicting.
That terrible, pain-filled howl, my howl, I realized with a shock, was still echoing off the black, greasy stones of the Blood Moon altar when Lucian exploded into the clearing. Between one breath and the next, he was a blur of dark fur and righteous fury, a storm of an alpha. His eyes blazed gold like the heart of a supernova. My instincts surged. Kale had me bound. A cold iron chain, cursed iron, it burned my skin. Looped around my wrists, his sneering face close to mine. "Your precious alpha is too late, Omega," he'd hissed, his breath like rotten meat. "The shadow claws will have their trinket, and I will have my truce. And Silverwood will have a real leader." But then, Lucian was there. Not too late, never too late. As if summoned by my deepest, most desperate prayer, he launched himself at Kale. A sound ripped from his throat that was pure, primal rage. What followed was a nightmare of flashing claws and snapping teeth. Lucian's warriors, Garrett at their head, crashed into Kale's 2 traitorous guards and the waiting shadow claws. The air thickened with the scent of blood, wolf blood, shadow claw blood, and the clash of body against body. I was useless, chained, watching in horror as Lucian fought Kale. Kale was strong, bigger even, fueled by his ambition. To make things worse, a huge Shadowclaw alpha, scarred and massive, tried to flank Lucian. Without thinking, I screamed, "Lucian! Behind you!" My body moved on instinct. Useless as I was, I threw myself sideways, trying to create a distraction, anything. The chain bit into my wrists, but I didn't care. As the bond pulsed, a desperate, burning connection between me and Lucian, I felt a strange energy well up inside me. Not the quiet seeing from before. This was different, hotter, sharper. As if the forest watched, I focused all my fear, all my desperate love for Lucian, all my pain, and I pushed it out, like a wave, a silent scream of the soul. The Shadow Claw Alpha, the one stalking Lucian, it stumbled. It whined, shaking its massive head as if stung by 1,000 invisible hornets. Just for a second. But it was enough. Lucian spun, his fangs sinking deep into the Shadow Claw's throat. And just like that, everything changed. The tide turned. Garrett and the others took down Kale's traitors. The remaining Shadow Claws, their alpha dead, broke and fled into the darkness. In the span of a breath, it was Kale and Lucian. Alpha against Beta. And Lucian, his eyes blazing with the fire of 1,000 suns, was finally going to end this. The fight was brutal, but Kale's ambition was no match for Lucian's righteous fury, fueled by the truth, fueled by me. Eventually, Kale lay broken and defeated at Lucian's paws. The tension broke. Silence descended, heavy and breathless, broken only by our ragged gasps. Moments later, Lucian was at my side, his fur matted with blood, Kale's, the Shadow Claws, some of his own. He was shifting, wincing, his human form appearing through the steam rising from his skin. His eyes, oh goddess, his eyes. They were filled with so much pain, so much regret, so much love. It stole my breath away. Elara. Her name hung in the air, a prayer this time. He fumbled with the cursed iron chain, his strong hands surprisingly gentle. As the mark tingled on my own shoulder, a warmth spread through me from his touch, chasing away the cold of the iron, the cold of despair. "Forgive me," he whispered, his voice raw, broken. "I was a blind fool, Elara. So blind." Her soul answered his, and tears, hot and cleansing, finally streamed down my face. I couldn't speak. I just nodded, my heart too full. Because of that moment, that broken whisper, I knew. I knew it was real. Garrett and the others, they bound a snarling, defeated Kale, dragging him away. The wind carried his name, Kale's, away into the night, a fading curse. Lyra, bless her, arrived then with more warriors, her face grim until she saw us, saw me, alive. Her smile was like the dawn. What followed was a slow journey back to the Silverwood Warren. I leaned on Lucian, every step an effort, but his arm around me was strong, a warm, solid promise. Deep down, I knew the truth. The pack was still scared, still confused. Kale's poison wouldn't wash away overnight. But then, as we walked, Lucian never left my side. He told them, the warriors who had come, the truth about Kale, about the Shadow Claws, about me. Not all of it, not then, but enough. Because of that, the way they looked at me started to change, just a little. From fear to something like wonder, or maybe just exhaustion. That night, back in the Warren, I wasn't taken to the Moonrock dens. Lucian himself led me to his own den, the Alpha's den. It was warm, safe, and he stayed with me, just holding my hand as the silence stretched until I finally fell asleep, feeling something I hadn't felt in forever. Safe. Come morning, and the weeks that followed, everything was new. Slow. Healing. Lucian, he told the pack everything. About Kale's betrayal. About the fated bond he'd been too scared to accept. About my gifts. He didn't call them a curse. He called them a blessing. A strength. Truth be told, it was hard to believe him at first. No matter how hard she tried, the old whispers of worthlessness, they still echoed sometimes. But then, Lucian would look at me. The moment their eyes locked, his were filled with so much love, so much patience, so much belief in me. And with his scent in the air, warm and protective, the whispers would fade. Because of that, I started to believe too. Lyra helped, Garrett helped, even old Martha. She'd bring me special healing teas and tell me stories of other Omegas, long ago, who had guided their packs with wisdom and heart. Eventually, the pack, they started to see. Not the Alpha's mistake, not Kale's curse, but Elara, just Elara, and maybe their Luna. One evening, beneath the moonlight, a full, beautiful moon this time, Lucian gathered the whole pack. He stood before them, tall and proud, his hand in mine. As fire bloomed beneath my skin, not from fear, but from love, he spoke. His voice, clear and strong, echoed through the clearing. He told them of his mistakes, his blindness. He told them of fate and the goddess's true gifts. And then he turned to me. Under the weight of his stare, which was now only full of adoration, he went down on one knee, in front of everyone. "Elara," he said, his voice thick with emotion. "My fated mate, my heart, my strength. Will you be my Luna? Will you heal this pack with me?" My voice trembled, but it was strong too when I answered. "Yes, Lucian. Yes!" As the cheer went up from the pack, a real cheer, a happy one. The space between them burned with a love that was finally, wonderfully free. My world tilted one last time, writing itself into a future I never could have dreamed of. I wasn't invisible anymore. I was seen. I was loved. I was Luna. And I was home.
Epilogue. A year later. Or maybe it was a lifetime ago. So much had changed. From there, where I once shivered in a cold, lonely den, I now stood on the Alpha's peak, the silver moonlight washing over the peaceful valley of the Silverwood Pack. And then, a warm, solid presence settled behind me. Lucian, my Alpha, my mate, my heart. His arms wrapped around my waist, pulling me back against his strong chest. His scent in the air, that familiar, beloved mix of old forests and thunderstorms, and just him. It was my favourite perfume now. My home. "What are you thinking about, my Luna?" he murmured, his voice a low, contented rumble against my ear. As fire bloomed beneath my skin, a gentle, steady warmth this time, I leaned back into him. "Just everything," I whispered. "How different it all is." And just like that, everything changed hadn't just been a single moment. It had been 1,000 tiny moments, all leading here. Because of that terrible night at the Blood Moon altar and the truths that had unravelled, the pack, they were different now. Stronger, more united. Kyle's treachery had been a bitter poison, yes, but the healing had been surprisingly sweet. Lyra, her wisdom now sought by many, helped guide that healing. And Garrett, bless his loyal heart, stood as Lucian's steadfast new beta. The pack, they didn't just tolerate me anymore. They respected me. Some even loved me. The Omega who saw things, who felt things. The Lunar who had helped save them. Truth be told, sometimes I still couldn't quite believe it. Different good, I hope. Lucian's lips brushed my temple. I turned in his arms, my hands finding their way to his strong shoulders. The moment their eyes locked, his still that fierce, burning gold, but now softened with so much love it made my chest ache in the best possible way. I smiled. A real smile. One that reached all the way to my soul. Different. Perfect, I told him. Because it was. My old fear, that deep-seated belief in my own worthlessness, it was just a faint echo now. A scar, like the one above Lucian's brow, but one that reminded me of how far I'd come. Not a ghost, not a curse. Instead, I was Elara, Lunar of Silverwood, loved, seen. Deep down I knew the truth now, a truth Lucian's unwavering love had helped me find. I was worthy. My gifts, they were a strength. As the wind shifted, carrying the gentle hum of the pack settling in for the night, and the sweet scent of night-blooming jasmine from the valley below, Lucian's gaze softened even more. The space between them burned with a quiet, steady passion, a love that had been tested by fire and emerged stronger than any cursed iron. "You are my everything, Elara," he said, his voice thick with emotion. "My moon, my stars, my very soul." My soul answered his. Without another word, he lowered his head, and his lips met mine, and in that kiss, under the watchful eye of the full benevolent moon, I knew. This was it. This was forever. Maybe it was fate that brought us together through so much pain. On the other hand, maybe we'd forged our own fate side by side. But then, does it really matter how? All that mattered was this. I was home. Truly, finally, home. And my Alpha. He claimed me every single day, in every glance, every touch, every beat of his heart against mine. And I claimed him right back. Always.